1,000 pom-poms. So by now, you probably have an abundance of pom-poms and you're wondering what you can do with them. Well, one of my favourites is to upcycle an old jumper, and that is the tutorial that I will be showing you today. You will need at least 20 pom-poms. I've made a whole bunch here in a similar colour scheme, and I've got large and small sizes. You will also need a wool and yarn needle. They're plastic and you can pick them up from pretty much any hobby store. You also need a piece of chalk. I've got a paint marker here. You'll also need a pair of scissors and some yarn that matches your jumper. So the jumper that I've bought is a nice bright green jumper. So I made my pom-poms so that they would be bright and contrasting on top. So I bought this from my local secondhand store. So the first thing I did was wash it in cold water. If it is wool or yarn, you're going to want to make sure that you have a cold hand wash and then just lay it out in the sun. You can do this exact same tutorial on a regular cotton jumper, but I would suggest using a sewing needle as opposed to a wool needle. The first thing we're going to do is trim any tails off of our pom-poms. Okay, so mine are all pre-trimmed and ready to go. You want to make sure that your pom-poms have great structural integrity. This is something that you want to be wearing out, it'll be handled, worn, it'll probably need to be washed. So make sure your pom-poms are nice and tight and that secure anchor that you've tied is as tight as possible. First thing we're going to do is measure out where we're going to sew our pom-poms onto. So, we're going to turn our jumper inside out so that we don't leave any marks on the outside. You can decide whether you're going to do the entire jumper, maybe just the front. You could do just the arms, just the cuffs, or just the back. How you mark out where your pom-poms is really up to you. I like to think I've got a pretty good eye, so I'm just going to be guesstimating where I stick them. If you would like to measure out each pom-pom, you can do that as well. But to be honest, I think it's more fun to just have a go, stick them on, and see what happens. Obviously, the more pom-poms you have, the closer together you can stick them. I'm just going to do the front and the arms of my jumper. So I'm going to get these perfectly placed where I want them, and then I'm going to fill them in with a little dot underneath. Once they're all marked out, it's time to get sewing. Obviously, we're going to be sewing our pom-poms on the right side of our jumper, but these marks are going to help give us a guide of where to sew. So, first of all, grab your plastic needle and thread some yarn through. It helps if you can get the same colour yarn as your jumper, but it's really not integral. Threading these needles can be a little tricky, so it's best to start off with a fairly substantial length of as my first one. So, putting my finger on one side and turning it over, I know where to put my pom-pom. So I'll pick one at random, place it on top there, and then, ever so simply, we're going to sew it on from the outside. So I'm starting at the bottom where our dot is, so here, and then might take a little pushing, there we go, and you'll get it through the center of your pom. So you can see it's a little bit tricky to get through, and it depends how dense and tight your pom-pom is. So we pulled it through there. We're just going to go across the pom about 1 centimeter and push it in, work it through the pom, and then you should see it come out again quite close to the entry point on the other side. Pull that through. So, of course we don't want this green line to show on the top of our pom-pom, so you're going to use your fingers and just wiggle those extra strands loose, and then pull it nice and tight from the other side. So you can see there, we've pulled our thread nice and tight through, and our pom-pom is secure. I'm just going to do another cross on the other side to secure it nice and tight. Once you've done a little cross over your pom-pom, we're just going to tie it off on the outside, on the inside. So, from the outside, you'd have a nice, neat knot. I'll cut those ends off. And on the inside, your pom-pom is firmly attached. Now, the most time-consuming part will be sewing all of your pom-poms on. So put on a good show, relax, and get stitching.